Hopefully you can see all right there. What I'm going to be doing is feeding down every time the tool moves backwards. So we feed on the back stroke and it'll cut on the forward stroke. And I'll leave me a little shovel there to catch the bits of swarf. Right, where are we at now? One thing I am going to do, I'm going to put the feed mechanism on the side here in the neutral position. I don't want it to feed if I forget what I'm doing, which is quite possible. I don't want it to feed if I engage this by mistake. I don't want anything to happen. Alright, there we go. I'll just touch off firstly. Lump of weld there when you take off. Take that off firstly. Now we're cutting that weld. See how I'm feeding on the way back. Put a bit of oil there. The overall length here has to be finished at 6 1/4. So 6 1/4 inches, that's the width between the frames. Right, there we are, that's that first pass done. Let's wind it back. Put another cut on. 25,000. 15, 25. So drink of tea. Alright, let's try again. It's interesting to see how much it takes to clean the end up. Just feeding down for touching. There you go. We're nearly at the bottom of this second pass. another 25 on, let's see if it starts cutting all the way across. 25. Get the oil on there. Right, let's get feeding. There we go. I was cutting over across the work. We'll see whether it cleans up across the whole area. Not far off halfway now. It's actually cutting all the way across now. It's not really a bad finish either. Let's see how it goes. Not far off finish now. It has cleaned up across the whole area, which is pretty good. We'll get the vernier out in a minute and we'll check what that overall length is. Make sure we've got plenty left to take off on the other side. There we go. Well, let's just stop it. Let's bring it back to the 0 position. Start. Which is there. Let's bring this up out of the way. And I'll just have a... Don't know bad. Two little areas where one wasn't so brilliant. It looks alright. Let me bring you around and show you the end first. There you are, can you see that? Nice machined face there now. I'll get my vernier and I'll just check across there. I'll need this. Need my magnifying glass these days because my eyes don't see so brilliant. I suppose I'm much different from anyone else really. Well, if I get that off the weld, 6.280. So we've got about 30 thousandths to take off. So I'm not going to take anything more off this side here. What I'm going to do is take it out the vise, clean this up, make sure no burrs on it, and then we're going to turn it round. We'll take the material off the other side. That looks alright, that does. Right, excellent. Alright, we just finished machining that second end face on this here, this stretcher component, and what we're going to do is measure it with my vernier. In fact, I'll just put the magnifying glass down because I'll need both hands for this. It should be 6 1/4 inches. I'll just do that. And let me have a look. Am I reckoning on about 1,000 over? About 1,000 over. Can you see that? Don't know if you can. Maybe a bit too close or too far away. But anyway, there you go. It's 6.251 by my reckoning, and I'm happy with that. Yeah. So what I'll do now is I'm going to take that out. I'll take that out. I'll clean it up, and I'm going to put the other one in and machine that one. And then when we've got both stretchers machined on the ends, we'll have a look at the other features. This is the last face of the second one. Nearly finished it now. This should be pretty much on size now. This was a bit longer than the other one. I'll have to take a bit more material off. Still okay though. Once this is done, we'll measure it and check. Right, we've just finished this last cut. We've got about, just get this. And we are, it's about 6.251, 6.252. I'm going to leave that as it is. I'm not taking anything more off it. So we're finished now on the shaper. And we start looking at machining these other features. Right, it's probably a couple of weeks now since I did the videoing of the machining of the two stretchers on the shaper here, which was part 3 of that little series of setting up the machine and how I operate the machine. And what I thought, I've just been going through some of the footage to put together part 4, which will be the end of it really. I don't want it to drag on for too long. I thought, well, maybe I should show you putting the vise back to how it should be in line this way with the ram. And that would sort of conclude the series. Because most of the operations and setups on this stand, you've got to be a bit creative with stuff. Keyway cutting and things of this nature would be a little bit different, but I thought we would just do basic setup operations for the shaper and use of the shaper, or how I use it. But I want to put this back to how it should be, put my bin back on, which will just tidy the machine up ready for its next operation. If I needed to move anything, I would move it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tool out, have a bit of a clean up, and then we'll swing this around and we'll plot that face of the jaw, and we'll get the machine back to how it should be, and that will conclude things, I think. Yeah, and you can probably hear as well, it's raining outside. It's pretty cool actually. It's about 12 degrees outside. It's not very warm for the time of year. It should be a little bit warm this for September, but still. If we didn't have the weather that we do, we wouldn't have anything to talk about in Britain. Alright, let me take the tool out, I'll bring it in close, and we'll get on with sorting out this vise. Someone was asking me why I don't have a T-handle. Well, I do here, look. This is the RDG one with the 3/8 square end. This fits on. It's actually 10mm square, that is, but it fits perfect on the 3/8. So you could use this on there, and I do sometimes. I certainly use it on that, because that is 10mm. There you go. So we do have something. That's just convenient because that's what came with the device, and I just use that. But anyway, there we are. There's our T-handle. It is made of steel as well. It's quite strong. I think I would prefer that T-handle to the crank handle. But anyway, let's get on. Right, let's take the tool out. I don't want to stand in the way so you can see what's going on. But you've got to be careful. As soon as you slacken this off, the tool falls out. So you've got to be careful. You've got a big shaper, your tools are going to be quite big and heavy. Make sure you grab hold of them before you undo that. You don't want to drop on the floor and smash the tip off or something like that, or land on your foot. Right, let's get this swiveled. 11/16, isn't it? It's actually still reasonably clean. All we've got to do is swing it round. Just one point here. A lot of people, you see a lot of shapers, and the vise is actually configured this way. There's nothing wrong with doing that, except people think like if you put your work in here, it's trapped better by the jaw here, the moving jaw. That may be so, but for me, the moving jaw is flexible. It's not rigid. So you put a piece of work in there, and it's up against a moving jaw. So in fact, when you're cutting it, you're doing a heavy cut, you're trying to open that jaw. You're trying to push it open, so you're putting your screw under a lot of pressure. If you turn that through, the other thing is as well, if you've got a long component, you've got to put it in that way because your jaws won't open big enough. So you've got a long component, and it'll take longer for you to go across it. But we can lots of little strokes like that. More efficient way of using the shaping machine vise is to use it so the jaws are in line with the axis of the ram. And what happens then is you're going to cut so that your feed rate is going that way. So in other words, the table is being fed that way. And every time it feeds that way, you're putting a cut on. So when the action of the shaper ram comes, in effect what it's doing is it's pushing the work up against the fixed jaw, and it's relieving the moving jaw. So that's a much better way of doing it, but it's your choice really which way you do it, which works best for you. I like to stick with this way. That's the way I was taught, and the reasons for doing this make a lot of sense to me. It's the most efficient way of cutting a block as well. If you've got a piece in here, long piece, you can cut that quicker than what it would be if you're doing it that way. Anyway, what we need to do is have a look there. We need a cloth. So I need a drink of tea as well first, so we'll have that. Right, let's get a cloth. Here's one. It's quite cool in here today as well, because I was going to put the diesel heater on. My battery's a bit low, and that's a little trickle charge heater there. I think it's a bit too low for it to charge up, so I'll get my bigger charger out and give it a good blast. But we'll do that afterwards. Alright, let's have a look what we've got here then. When I finished using the machines, I like to put them back how they should be. There you go. Right. don't like piles of swarf and crap in the workshop either. Sometimes it's unavoidable. You've got a big job and you can't stop the job, let's clean up. Now you've got to get the job done. Now when you finish what you're doing, then you can clean up. Alright, I've just locked that down in position. What we're going to do is we're going to get some instrument equipment together for clocking this vice. We're going to clock the fixed jaw, never clock the moving jaw, always the fixed jaw. That's your datum jaw. Right, let's have a look. Interesting, I've got a couple of sets of tools that we can use. I've got this one here, which is an old one. I got this off eBay. Let's have a look what make that is. Made in England. You don't see that nowadays, do you? A Capstan patent, a number 5, 1/1000th of an inch increment. I can't read what it says at the bottom now. Let me have a look. Let's see what it says. Can you see that? Can you read it? I'm not sure if you can or not. Can you see through? Do you want the magnifying glass? Can you see it now? Made in England, Capstan Gauge Company, Brighton. Of course, Brighton was famous for building steam locomotives back in the day. There were big works at Brighton. Built a lot of BR standards, especially the Standard 4 tanks. Beautiful locomotive, the Standard 4. Yeah. Anyway, this is the gauge. This is the gauge we're going to use. I just wanted to show you something else, because you might have sets of these typical gauge sets come together. You know, you've got holders. I don't want to get too near because this won't focus, so you can't see properly, but you got little holders. Here's the attachment for measuring the bore on the lathe, for clocking up, and the 4-jaw chuck. Clock goes through there, the stylus goes on there. That was really the one thing I bought this set for, was this particular attachment here. I was after one, I couldn't find one. Various little bits and bats. We've got a rod here, look. Now that fits with this, and it's important. I'll tell you what this is for. Let me just put the box down for a minute. I'm just going to tell you what it's for. Let me put that gauge on the vise there. Let's see if I can't fall off. So let me just come around here. And I'm going to bring you up a little bit so you're not talking to me chest, you're talking to me. Your face, yeah, okay. Can you see? Yeah, you can see me there. Right, I can put that down. I don't need that bit either. You might find a block like that in your DTI set. That was part of this set, but it was for use on planers and shapers. That's what it was for. This, the rod screws into there, like so. You could put your clamp on there and your DTI sticking down, or across, or whatever it was, and then that would go in there. See? And that's for doing your clocking of your vise, or work, or whatever it is. So if you see one of these blocks with a rod on it, it was for a planer or a shaper. This is really useful to have. Some sets might not have them, I don't know. I've got a Starrett one here. We've got a Starrett one here in the box. The gauge is a bit dodgy on this, I need to get it repaired, but See, this has got another internal, can you see that, the internal bore indicator attachment. So you can put, it's for clocking workup using the bore in the four-jaw chuck on the lathe. I'm sure you could use it for other things too, but there you go. That's a genuine Starrett, that is. But look here though, this is one of these last word indicator sets. I'm not sure what's the number here, it tells us here. Starrett Universal Dial Test Indicator number 196 and 196M, and important instructions. They built some really good tools, Starrett. Still do some excellent stuff. They used to have a place in Scotland, I think, was it Fraserburgh? I can't remember now. But obviously they got placed, the main factories are out in the United States, but look. So with this Starrett set, you still get the attachments for the shaper and the planer. And there's the rod that goes with it. So you can just see, and you see the bits in here. I don't want to tip it up too much because they'll fall out. You get there's a clamp you can use as well, so there's all kinds of things. But shapers and planers were typically catered for in the old days with indicator sets, because planers and shapers are really important machine tools in production. The gauge is actually, this gauge is a metric one. It's a back plunge indicator. Can you see the little plunger on the back? But the gauge sticks sometimes. I'd like to send it back to Starrett and get them to do an overhaul on it. But I don't know if they do that sort of work. I didn't find anything about that sort of thing on the internet either, and I didn't see a lot of this. When I looked at the website for what's available from Starrett in the UK, there didn't seem to be very much at all, so I was quite disappointed with that. It looks like you'd have to get things from the United States, and I didn't fancy sending a gauge all the way back, you know, a DTI back to the US to be overhauled. But anyway, there you are. It's a little bit of information for you about your DTI sets. If you've got a shaper, you've got a lathe, or you've got a planer, or you've got a milling machine, or whatever, and you want to get a set, or you need some instrumentation for setting things like this up here. If you get a set, there's a good chance you might have these type of parts in it, so it really gives you a bit of a head start. So you've got something to attach your indicators to. But bear in mind, if you put anything in here, that moves, so you need to be able to lock that down in position. But anyway, I'm not going to use these in here. We could do. We could do. Do you want to do that? Yeah, we can do that, I think. And I can lock this down. I've got a special adapter. This one here, which I use, like I mentioned to you before, didn't I? It's got a plain shank there, and then that screws in. Because this, I attach my indicators and stuff to these. Well, that goes in. It locates in the clapper. There you go. And I can tighten that down, and that'll be okay then. So I just need to grab the 1/4 inch Whipworth spanner. Inch. Just do so. There you go. I'll put that down there. And we need to put the holder in. You can certainly tell the autumn's here now. Right. Like that. Use our T-wrench. That's okay. Right, I'll bring you close closer to what we're doing here, else you're not going to see everything. So let me just bring you down a little bit. Can you see all right there? I might lower you down a little bit as well. I've got you about the same height as my sort of head, so you see things as a person would when you come into a workshop. Right, what we're going to do, turn that 90, we'll clock it like that. What we'll do is we'll just set the ram running, and it'll just go backwards and forwards, and we'll just tap it one way or the other way, and that'll do it. But when you put the attachment in, hold it. To do this, we'll need to bring this across. And someone was asking about why do I use this little ratchet as well here. Well, it's a 3/8 ratchet, and I was looking for something for 3/8 for use on the shaping machine. I wanted the crank handle originally, but you can't get that things for love nor money. And I was looking through eBay and I saw these. There were 6 of them in a box. And they were brand new, old stock. I think these are made in the United States. And they're only made in USA. I don't know what company makes them. They're not heavy duty or anything like that, although they are quite heavy. I thought, oh, they'd be useful. Because they're a female square, they can go onto a conventional 3/8 extension. A little snap-on one. And that fits on there. Perfect. That's why I use it. So for all my general movements on here, I use this. If you've got to use the T-handle, you'll like this, aren't you? I think I'll lower it down as well. Let's do this. Important on the Atlas machine when you move the table up or down, you must always retighten the nut. Don't leave them loose. It's not meant to be like that. You're supposed to undo them, move it to where you want it, and then tighten it down again. I'm going to make sure this is at the bottom. I don't think it's far off, to be honest, because we need a bit of height with the gauge dropping down now. We need a bit of height with the gauge. So we go down as far as we can. About there. Let's bring it back. And we'll lock it up there. If you had the 7B model, don't forget you've got the support at the front of the box table here. So you'll need to make sure you adjust that every time you lift it up and down. Make sure you adjust that. The bigger shapers, other shapers, you should, normally what would happen with them is you'd lift the tables up and down. In fact, you can have them so they've got automatic feeds up and down, but a lot of them they don't need to be. They are free to move up and down on the rail. Some still need to be locked off, so you really need to know which you've got, what the correct procedure is for lifting this up and down. Do you need to worry about locking it off or undoing it or whatever, or can you just start winding the table up and down, know that it stays in the same place all the time? Let's put the gauge there, it's safe. Put our little, there you are, see. So if we're gonna put it something like, you know, I might even put it like that there. And that might be better. Let's do it that way. There you go. You've got to make sure it's open sufficiently to not catch anything. We can bring this back this way a touch. Alright. So we're going to be somewhere. And we've got to be at a slight angle here because of the size of the gauge. Looks like everything else is trying to come out. Anyway. This is an old set, this is, as you can imagine by the condition of it. It still works nicely. And making sure it's not going to touch the bottom of the vise. So there we go. I just need, because the nails are all worn out on this here, so I just need to use my grips. I shall make a new nut for this. This is actually brass. I'll make a new nut. You can't grip it properly, so I just have to pinch it up with these. You don't want it moving on here at all. See, it's still. Oh, it's actually undone there. Let me just undo that then. So we'll move. Let me tighten this. I didn't tighten this up. That was my mistake. There you go. Looks better. Let's have a look. Where are we now? We've got clearance there. We need to put some preload onto the DTI. And then we can have a look to see how good it is. I'm going to bring you down a little bit so you can see straight on the end. Right, can you see that better now? If I bring you in a little bit, can you see it better? There you are. Right. If we bring this across, we'll see what sort of preload we've got in this. We haven't got much there, have we? So let's put a bit more on. Let's turn that around. So that's on 0. There you go, that's 0 now. So, got no power on, emergency stops in. Let's move that in case we knock it. All we need to do is just operate this. What kind of stroke length we got here? Is that too long? Yeah, we got a long stroke there, haven't we? Let's bring it all the way back. We've got a short stroke because we're machining the ends, won't we? We just need to bring the start point further back. Wait. That's probably about as far back as it can go. So let's just see what it looks like when I rotate it. By hand. We're going inside the ram guides here now with the head. You've got to be really careful with that. Especially if you were cutting a keyway, because you've got to go right the way back. So just watch for that, because if you've got this canted over or anything like that, you can foul on here. that look? Well, that's about, what, 7 off there. So that's sort of +7. Oh no, it's not. It's about 3, -3, isn't it? I'm looking at it wrong. That's 10. What I'm going to do is start this up and run it really slow. Yeah. And then what we'll do is we'll just adjust it while it's running. 0, that was +1 there, -4, let's just back that off a touch, sufficient to allow us to just knock it round. I just need to go around it behind it here. There's a little favourite mallet. So that's going plus now, so the plunger's going in, so it's got to come that way. See, that's about -2, -1. We're pretty good just doing the alignment on the, that, is it fiducial mark or something like that they call it, I can't remember now. That's about -2, -1. I think that'll be good enough for us, I think so. As I said to you in one of the previous videos, the jaws aren't perfect. They've got, what, 85 years of use, of operation, and a lot of work. But I don't think that's too bad. I'm just going to pinch that up there and we'll just make sure that nothing moves. Has it moved? Yeah, it's okay, that is. That looks alright, that does. See, it's a really simple, straightforward operation. It's worth doing, making sure your vise is trammed in properly. I'm happy with that. So yeah, if you're looking for some tooling for your shaper, your planer, for your dial test indicator, have a look at one of these sets. If you're buying a set off eBay, or you might decide to get a new one, it's up to you. Maybe they've got these in. If they have, it's a plus for you, because then your set will do your shaper. You can use it on your lathe, milling machine or whatever, but that looks okay. I'm happy with that. And that comes back to the start position. We'll switch it off. There you go. So that's the vise all trammed in now. I'll take all this off now and I'll put the bin back on, and that tidies that up, and then we'll have a little chat about what we've done. Alright, the shaper's back together again now. Put the bin back on the front where it belongs. Vise is all trammed in nice and straight, in line with the axis of the ram. We're back to our starting point, so it's ready for its next job, whatever that might be. So we've gone into quite a bit of depth of setting this machine up here, and we've used it as well. So not only have we set the machine up, but I've shown you why we set it up in the operation of the machine. That's important. It's alright saying we're going to tram this in, but so why are you tramming it in? You tram it in or you clock it in to make sure that it's running true, so that when you do your cuts, they're running true as well. And the surfaces then are square and parallel. That's the important thing about that. So hopefully you've learned something about the shaping machine, a very old old machine. You don't see many of them at all now. You probably see more, well, you certainly will see more on YouTube than what you will in any factory or workshop. You might still, people still use them occasionally. You might see one tucked away in the corner of a workshop and they use it for just keyway cutting and things like that. Maybe one or two jobs. Some people have done special attachments and things for them, so they do specialist type of jobs that are not that easy to do on a milling machine. Or you might need an expensive CNC milling machine to do them, or you could do them if you made a few attachments for the shaping machine. But anyway, there you go. I thought that was quite interesting little series of videos that we've done. I'm hoping that you've gained something from it. You know a bit more about a shaping machine and you know a bit more about the setting up and the operation. But anyway, thanks for coming along with me, and we'll see you on the next video. Alright, thanks for watching.